Fourth ventricle. Ventricles are a set of communicating cavities within the brain. There are 4 ventricles. They are 2 lateral ventricles, third ventricle, and fourth ventricle. All these 4 ventricles are responsible for production, transport, and removal of cerebrospinal fluid. So then about the fourth ventricle. Fourth ventricle is a tent-like cavity of hindbrain. It is situated in the posterior cranial fossa. So in sagittal section, it is triangular in outline. When we take a horizontal section, it appears to be rhomboidal in shape. So fourth ventricle is a tent-like cavity of hindbrain situated in the posterior cranial fossa. Then this is situated behind the pons and upper part of medulla oblongata and also in front of the cerebellum. So this is the fourth ventricle, that is a tent-shaped cavity of the hindbrain, and that lies behind the pons and the upper part of medulla oblongata and in front of the cerebellum. Then about the important features of fourth ventricle. The fourth ventricle has recesses, angles, boundaries, and choroid plexus. Then about the recesses. So here in this picture, we can see the recesses. So there are 5 recesses. There are 2 lateral recesses. There is a median dorsal recess and 2 lateral dorsal recesses. Totally, we have 5 recesses. Then about the angles. The fourth ventricle has superior angle that lies in the superior part of the fourth ventricle. Then it has an inferior angle that lies inferiorly, and the fourth ventricle has lateral angles. So it has 2 lateral angles. So superior angle is continuous above with the cerebral aqueduct of midbrain. Cerebral aqueduct is the cavity of the midbrain. The inferior angle is continuous below with the central canal of closed part of medulla oblongata. Then about the boundaries of the fourth ventricle. On each side, the fourth ventricle is bounded infralaterally, inferiorly and laterally. On each side, the fourth ventricle is bounded by inferior cerebellar peduncle, gray cell tubercle, and cuneate tubercle. So inferiorly and laterally, the fourth ventricle is bounded by inferior cerebellar peduncle, gray cell, and cuneate tubercle. Then supralaterally or superiorly and laterally is bounded by superior cerebellar peduncle. So about the boundaries, it has infralateral boundary and supralateral boundary. Infralaterally, it is bounded by inferior cerebellar peduncle, gray cell, and cuneate tubercle. Supralaterally, it is bounded by superior cerebellar peduncle. Then about the roof. So the fourth ventricle that has a roof. This roof has an upper part and a lower part. Or this roof is subdivided into an upper part and a lower part. So about the upper part is formed by the convergence of 2 cerebellar peduncle, and there you can see a thin sheet of white matter that is called as superior medullary velum. Then about the lower part. So this is the lower part. So the lower part is formed by inferior medullary velum. Then the middle or the median part, we can see an aperture that is called as median aperture of Magendie or foramen of Magendie. And just above that, you can see T-shaped choroid plexus. So lower part is formed by inferior medullary velum that are the gray matter. Then there is an aperture called as medial aperture of Magendie, and you can see T-shaped choroid plexus. Then our fourth ventricle that has a floor, and this floor is rhomboid in shape. So it is also called as rhomboid fossa. And this floor is formed by the posterior surface of the pons and the upper part of medulla oblongata. And this floor that has three parts. The floor has three parts, or the floor is subdivided into three parts, that is an upper triangular part, a lower triangular part, and an intermediate area. So the upper triangular part of the floor is formed by the posterior surface of the pons. The lower triangular part of the floor is formed by the upper part of the posterior surface of the medulla oblongata. And the intermediate part that lies at the junction of the medulla and the pons. So in this picture, you can see the fourth ventricle. Then this location, that is, it lies behind the pons and medulla, lies in front of the cerebellum. Then you can see the angles. You can see in this picture the superior angle, the inferior angle, the choroid plexus, the tila choroidea, the superior medullary velum. All these things you can see in this picture. Then the features of the floor of the fourth ventricle. So in the floor you can see a median sulcus. At the middle of the floor you can see a median sulcus, and this median sulcus that divides the floor into two halves. So on either side of this median sulcus you can see an area. That area is called as median eminence. So on either side of the median sulcus you can see an area that is called as median eminence. And median eminence is bounded laterally by another sulcus that is called as sulcus limitans. So the floor of the fourth ventricle is divided into right and left half by a median sulcus. Then lateral to this median sulcus, you can see an area that is called as median eminence. And this medial eminence is bounded laterally by another sulcus that is called as sulcus limitans. Then lateral to this sulcus limitans, there is another area that is called as vestibular area. It is called so because that overlies the vestibular nuclei. The upper part of this sulcus limitans that widens into a triangular depression that is called as superior fovea. So upper end or the upper part of the sulcus limitans that widens into a triangular area that is called as, or triangular depression that is called as superior fovea. Then just above the superior fovea, the sulcus limitans that flattens out and presents a bluish colored area, the blue-gray colored area that is called as locus ceruleus. So above the superior fovea, the sulcus limitans flattens out and presents a bluish-gray area that is called as locus ceruleus. The lowermost part of the sulcus limitans that presents another small depression that is called as inferior fovea. So upper part of the sulcus limitans, you can see a depression that is called a superior fovea. Similarly, you can see another depression, the lower part of the sulcus limitans. That depression is called as inferior fovea. Then on either side of the medial eminence, you can see an oval swelling that is called as facial colliculus. So facial colliculus is an oval swelling on either side of the medial eminence. Then there is a sulcus that divides the medial eminence into an upper hypoglossal triangle and a lower vagal triangle. Then features of the lower part of the floor of the fourth ventricle that resembles with that of a pin nib. So that resembles with that of a pen nib. So it is also called as calamus scriptoria. So the lower part of the floor of the fourth ventricle that resembles a pen nib, hence it is called as calamus scriptorius. Then infralateral margin of the floor of the fourth ventricle is marked by a narrow white ridge that is called as tinea. Then the two tinea, that is tinea of the right side and the left side, meet at the inferior angle to form a small fold that is called as apex. And this apex that denote the inferior angle of the fourth ventricle. So fourth ventricle is a tent-shaped cavity of the hindbrain that lies behind the pons and upper part of the medulla oblongata in front of the cerebellum. Okay, thank you.